Dude, I have the cortex. Like, what the fuck? Come on.
Making a note. I'll remember.
I just want to make sure I can trade the cortex. Yeah, amulet. Like, how? How's this not the last one? What am I missing from the last Intercaster, bro? confused. I'm super confused. What meerkats did I fucking miss? Oh, I'll just do it the right way. I'll straighten it. So confused. Did I seriously miss a meerkat?
Updated my journal. I'll remember that.
I'm eating while I do this, so taking longer. really wanted to ask Makina what she means, but I wanted to stay on the good side.
Updated my journal.
Where the fuck is Cody?
I'll remember that. Making a note.
finishing eating. I want to look up all the mirror casters in the game because I figured that would be the last one. Okay, I think I'm just missing the frictionless, which I don't know what that is. Better be in the wallet. The heart or something. Okay, it's in the heart interior. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, we're straight. Alright, cool. We'll get it. You know, we're like really close to the end.
No, I'm fine. We can keep going.
if anybody ever watches, I just want to check the trophy real fast. so tempting to think about platinuming this game. It's just one trophy I fucked up. I fucked up one damn trophy. I don't know if I can risk replaying it again, not knowing for sure if I would actually be able to get it on that one playthrough. The fucking one trophy I missed was making Algren love you even though he thinks you're the changing god. Even though I told everyone I was the changing god, I still failed to convince Algren. And he loves me on this playthrough, so I have to do 2 playthroughs theoretically to make everyone hate me, and then a playthrough to make Algren love me and think I'm the changing god. Unless I could get, because I got the Everyone Loves Me trophy at the end of Valley of the Dead God. So if I could have everyone else hate me, have convinced Algren I was a changing god, and Sagus Glyphs, which is apparently pretty easy to do, I just think I didn't have Algren in my party enough when I told people I was a changing god. And then if he loves me at the same point towards the end of Valley of the Dead Gods, I wonder if that would be enough time to then make him hate me. Furthermore, I wonder if having all characters dislike you, if that only means all characters in your party. Because I'm almost positive that when I got the trophy for all characters loving me, not every character loved me. It was just the 3 characters that were in my party loved me. So it's tricky, man. But it's like, dang, the platinum is like so reachable. That would be a sick fucking platinum. I think it's 0.3%. That'd be a sick ass platinum to get. I wanted to play this game how I wanted to play it. I didn't want to play it looking at a platinum trophy guide. I really didn't. I wanted to play it how I wanted to. I didn't want to play it, make all the characters hate me. Like, that would have sucked. I wanted to play it the way I wanted to play it. But it sucks because, like, when I finish this playthrough, I don't know, 2 hours or whatever, 3 hours, an hour and a half, I don't know, I'm almost done. I probably will have gotten every trophy except make all characters dislike me, make Algren think I'm the changing god and love me anyway. Become the new memovira. And I also might not become the new changing god. Like, literally, there's literally probably 4 trophies I won't get. Assuming I can save scum all the companion trophies at the end by making different choices. If you can do it like that. So it really might only be 4 trophies I'll be missing to get the platinum, which means I might be at like 93%. Oh wait, the platinum counts as a percentage too, doesn't it? I don't know, but I might be at like 93% or like 86%, 87%. Like, I'm gonna be pretty fucking close. I'm gonna be at a very high percentage, 61% now. And then it begs the question of, like, should I try to get the platinum? Which, now that I know the game and I know what to do, and I'm not going to be doing basically any other side content, if I did another playthrough for the platinum, if I could get it on a playthrough, you can like absolutely run through this game. So if I were to try to do another playthrough after I beat this, my guess is probably like 2 hours worth of gameplay left. But if I were to try to do another playthrough to get the platinum, I could probably run through it in like 12 hours. Because if you just main the fucking, do the main path, maybe, no, it would take longer than that. Yeah, because you do have to do some side content, because one of the fucking trophies, there's a good side and a bad side about not playing a game with the intention of getting all the trophies or achievements. Like, not looking all that stuff up. Because if you don't, you won't have spoiled stuff, and it'll be more organic, natural, which is great. But you're probably going to miss out on important, easy trophies that you could have gotten that you wouldn't have known. But if you do look at a guide, then, like if I had looked at a guide, I would have been able to do less than one full playthrough. I would have only had to do like half of a playthrough after this. If I just looked, like if I just looked at a guide, I would have known to have the two things that I needed to do that I fucked up, that are gonna make it such a bitch on the new subsequent playthrough, is I unlocked everything in the column and fought all the things, whatever. But there's one thing I didn't, was the Necronomicon, which I call it, that squid creature thing in Sagas Cliffs. I had to have, like, flubbed the clock up to have made it nighttime, and then, like, freed him, and he would have, like, gone into the labyrinth. So that was the one element I was missing from the calm. And even though I convinced everyone I was a changing god in Sagas Cliffs, at least the cults and the cult and shit, I didn't have Algren with me enough to convince him. So that completely conflicts with, if I was to do a new playthrough, I have to get everybody to hate me. But I still need Algren to think I'm the changing god and have him love me anyway. So I don't know if it's possible to make a character love you and hate you in the same playthrough. Particularly with Algren, because if he thinks I'm the changing god, his opinion of me will probably be worse, and it'll take longer to convince him to love me. So it's like, like, damn, the platinum is so reachable, but it's not. I probably won't go for it. But I kind of am tempted to get what I can. Like, it's not a hard platinum game, but there's specific things you have to do. Like, for example, like, I saved all the mirror casters. So I think all the mirror casters would possibly be enough to alter my tides enough to, like, completely change them to something else. Because to become the changing god, I think you have to have certain tides. I think you have, or the memovira. Wait, can you become the new memovira? Or, I know it's Makina, but you have to have certain tides. So I was wondering if that would be enough to manipulate them into the colors that I needed. I honestly shouldn't have cared, but once I started getting very late into the game, I was like, I might as well try and clean up as many trophies as I can get. You know, once I see that, I'm probably gonna finish the game with arguably only 4 trophies missing. I'm like, damn, what if I could have gotten it? I want to see if you need any special um, title alignment to become champion. What is it even called? To become the changing god at the end of the game, do you need certain color tide alignments? Yeah, blue and silver. That's what I keep hearing, blue and silver. I already have blue, so I'd have to change my gold to silver. I also worry, like, would that fuck up any of my abilities to, like, do my companion quest? Sure. Well, let's have a dominant alignment of blue, silver. This game would be a good game to organically play multiple times, though. Like, there's so many things that I've found out just looking at shit about, like, Rin. Like, I have a hunch that if you had sent Rin through the House of Empty Time, I could be wrong. Maybe it's just not that, but she, the adult, maybe it's not that. Maybe that's just how the actual version goes. But I saw I wasn't even trying to spoil it, but I saw like a weapon. Like, I wanted to look up all the weapons to see like if there are any better weapons in the game like coming up or that I could get. So I was just curious, looking at all the weapons and armor and stuff, see like do I have the best stuff? So I wasn't even trying to spoil anything major. But I saw one of the weapons and I was like, oh, that's great. And it was a weapon for Rin. And I was like, okay, it's weird. And it was like, it said adult Rin. Like, so in some capacity, there will be an adult version of Rin that, like, fights with you. So I don't know if that's, like, just in the storyline, if you have her in your party, like, it gets forwarded into the future, like when you fight the changing god, or I don't know either, like if you fight the changing god or the first cast off, or if you have a choice. I don't know how many endings the game has in terms of that. Um, but in some capacity, somewhere, there's an adult Rin that fights. I was wondering if it was sending her to the House of Empty Time, because if you send her to the House of Empty Time, which I did, and then went back and undid it, you can actually look up. It's a really cool fucking thing. You can send her through the House of Empty Time and Sagas Cliffs, which is probably her least desirable ending. Though it's not a bad ending at all. She actually grows up to be like very accomplished. Like she grows up to be a famous something, like famous architect or some shit. um, and it's cool because you can actually look at the book that the alien Clark creature guy has, the guy that you have to like distract in order to like get his attention with the Tiberius quest. And you can look in the book. I think it's the book. After you send her to the House of Empty Time, you can look in the book because the book tells you about like citizens from history, right? And when you send someone through the House of Empty Time, you don't know where they're gonna go. Like, um, you don't know where they're gonna end up. Like, it could be 2,000 years time difference from where it is now. It could be a million years because there's a billion years in the future. I don't know. It could be 500 million years, maybe. I don't know, but if you send her through the House of Empty Time, and then you go and you look at that book, just learn about the history of like the citizens and things, you find out that like I think it was 200 years ago or 500 years in the past, something like that. Rin, you see the name Rin, and like you read about her life, and I don't know, she like accomplished some great things and was like, I want to say an architect or something, but she was like a very, and it said like it was cool too because like it's something that like a profiling of a citizen wouldn't probably have, but they want to obviously let you know that like she ended up good, and it says like she ended up like she grew up like a whatever, she was like a strong and intelligent woman and had this success, and she was like lived a happy life, shit like that, which is like a really cool touch. And also like a really fucking cool thing too, because just like this game is so fucking intelligent, it's like you can play the game unintelligently, or you can play it intelligently. You can basically get out of the game what you want. You can get an average experience, you can get a great experience, you can get a bad experience. Like it depends on how much of yourself you invest and how much you care and what you do in the game. And it's like you could send Rin through the House of Empty Time, and that's just it, which is still an interesting thing. Um, but like, if you're smart, and you think of all the details, like looking in that, like looking in that book, it's like, oh, let me just see if I can look in the book and see if I can find Rin's name. And I was like, holy shit. Like, it was such a cool thing. And they add such nice little touches like that in the game for people who really care and who are smart about it and who go out of their way to, like, try to look for things and to try to, like, exploit the features in the game to their desire, and like people who search and care and are interested. Like I love that they put touches like that in the game. Like that was such a cool little thing. But even like with the Ren situation, like it's such it's really a Ren is like a microcosm of the systems that make up the entirety of the game, because it's like there's so many options with Ren. It's ridiculous. Like you can never have even found her. Um, Obviously, if you don't talk to the slaver, but if you do talk to the slaver, it is a quest. But still, like you have to find her like hiding in like between rocks, like in rubble, which is actually like not particularly easy to find. So you could very and you don't know at the time that this is, oh, this is an important side quest to get a new companion. Like unless you read about it, like you wouldn't know at the time. So if you're not committed to doing all the side quests, or that side quest in particular didn't seem interesting, or you went to do it and it wasn't immediately apparent where she was, like in the rubble, and you just said fuck it, or you just skipped it, you would have missed a giant component of the game, a huge component of the game. You could have so easily missed it. And then if you do find her, you have so many different ways it can play out. Like if you do the wrong thing, or like I think say the wrong thing, she I think she potentially won't come with you. Um, and depending on how you interact with the goons. And then if you do get her to come along with you, if you just dismiss her once, she will never come back to your party. Which, like, it implies she won't, but you don't know that for sure. It's the only character with that mechanic. Also, it's like, and you have different options too. You can straight out just be like, get out of here. Or you can, like, I think give her money to, like, get a hotel or some shit. Or I think maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that was something somebody said, but like I think there's like different options you can do, and it's like she will not come back. And then also you can get her and complete the quest the way it was asked, and get her and give her back to the slave lady. Like I'm pretty sure that you can just give her back to the slave lady and complete the quest like that, and then you would never have Rin in your party, right? Or you can get her, and then you obviously find out about the House of Empty Time through the adopted family thing with the Jerem character, which gives you backstory on the House of Empty Time, which is what the game is great at doing that as well. It's like it's great at like foreshadowing, giving you backstory. If you partake in it, if you don't partake in it, you won't get it, and then a lot of things won't make sense or be as interesting. But that's one of the first quests. That's one of the first little, I don't know, interaction quests, whatever that you can do, and it tells you all about the House of Empty Time, and it's actually kind of cool and impactful, like deciding whether or not to like tell the kid that he's from like that he's 500 years like in the future, and his parents are dead and everyone he knows is dead. Um, or you can choose to like lie to him, not tell him, like what have you. But you find out about the House of Empty Time through that, and then you can, if you press the parents, they give you insight on the lady that like runs it or whatever, and then that allows you to like find the lady in the like the business district or whatever, economic district, and then you, depending on dialogue, you can have the option of sending Ren through the House of Empty Time, because at that point you don't fully know Ren's story, and you might think sending her through the House of Empty Time is the best option. Like you probably do think at the time, especially when you meet Ren and find out stuff about her, that that is her story, that she's a child that was pushed through the House of Empty Time thing, and that's all. That's what I thought was all that was to her story, and that's not what her story was. But you might think that, so you might think putting her through the House of Empty Time is like the optimal ending for her, when in fact it's probably the least optimal, even though there really are no bad ones from what I see. Um, but it's just there's so many options, so you can like send her through, and even the way you do send her through is different. Like the way you react to her, you can do it like nicely. You can try to you can convince her. You can just force her. Like how she reacts to you and how it happens can all be like a different tonally. Um, and you send her through, and you can choose to look at the book or not to see how her future ended up. And it's like such an interesting concept and very ballsy and daring, because it's like it gives you so many options when you to even find the character in the first place who's like probably the most integral companion as far as like interesting deep story, and period, because she's the only companion that if you do keep her, she she will be in your party the entire time. You can't get rid of her, so in a sense she is the most impactful, meaningful companion. And it's like you could so easily not even get her or make the wrong decisions or give her back to a slaver or put her in the House of Empty Time, or then later on send her through the portal in Little Neelish, or like there's so many freaking options. Like it's just it's so wildly impressive. Like the game truly allows you to create your own world, your own playthrough, your own existence, your own journey. Like the game truly allows you to create your own journey, and it actually really does feel tailored to you. Like so many games are just you're just playing the story that's laid out, and the decisions that are there are just arbitrary there are really like a lot of games like in which I enjoy some. I enjoy most of the, or at least I used to, most of the Telltale games. Just they're junk food games. They're dumb and fun. But the choice and consequence in those games is so surface level and fraudulent. Like typically the games end all the same way. Uh, may the almost no major occurrences in the game are different from the choices you make. Very oftentimes, the choices you make in Telltale games, it merely just changes some dialogue or some very minor things or some superficial things. Um, but while this is not an adventure game, it's an RPG, but it's still so damn impressive. Like the breadth of options that you have with the choices and consequences. Like it's kind of like with Detroit Become Human, which I think is the best adventure game ever made in terms of choice and consequence and production value, graphics, visuals, um, sound design, voice acting, choice and consequence, and then the choice tree that they made just amazing. Um, and in that game too, it's like you play as different characters, and one of the characters you play as, you can literally end her entire story arc, her entire character tree and choice tree. You can end it on her first chapter, like literally in her first scenario, her first chapter, her first scenario. You can completely end her story, and you'll never see the rest. Where like you save the little girl from the abusive father, and then they call the cops on you, and you run from the cops, and then you're on the run without money, and you steal money from, which is just one choice. There's a million ways you can do it. I think you could find money in the back of the car. You could rob a convenience store. You could steal money from a laundromat, and then you get a hotel. Blah blah blah. This and the story goes on, and you find a convent for machines, and then at that convent or whatever for machines, you find out your character is a robot. Well, you don't find that. You know that from the beginning. Your character is a robot. It's like a handy helper, like robot, maid, like whatever robot. And the child is a real girl, child, supposedly, uh, daughter of an abusive dad. And then, like, middle, late in the game, you fucking go to, like, this, not convent, but a place where robots are. And you're trying to escape. And, I guess it's, like, a place where these robot refugees go to try to, like, find a way elsewhere. Like, tickets to get out of places. And you go to this fucking place, and it's so interesting what you find out because your character is a robot and you got this little girl with you who you've like really connected with during the story, and it's like I don't know, listen, go listen, or who does will care. I don't really want to spoil it, but it's like you're walking along, you leave the girl somewhere, you go to talk to someone, you're walking along, and then you look, and you're like, you see the girl, like not where you left her, and way further up than you guys were, and it's like, how, like, what? How did she? How did she possibly get here when she was just back there? Um, and let's just say it was like a really interesting, for me, jaw-dropping revelation at that point, which was really cool. I had no idea, but it's just, and there's like so much more shit, but it's like all of that could have been missed if you had chosen the wrong options and your character gets shot in her very first like chapter. And it's funny because like when that does happen, you see her like entire like empty tree, and then you see your one little option that you picked where your tree ended. And it's so dope the way they do it in Detroit with like the fucking character tree. Like it's like a fucking tree like with branches, and it shows you all the different potential. It doesn't tell you what they are until you actually do them. But it shows. I'm pretty sure it shows you all the different potential branches, and it's like they're like these huge branching differences and outcomes, and it just shows you how much variation is there, and it's crazy. It's like, and you end the character's arc right in the beginning, like right in her first chapter, and it's just this one little line, like basically, this one little line coming out with like maybe two more lines on it, out of this like a whole big ass fucking tree of things that could have happened, and it's such a fascinating, interesting way to give you an overview of just how far-reaching and broad, and how just complex and how many variables there are. It's just so fucking impressive. I don't know why. For some reason, people have mixed feelings on the game. It gets a lot of criticism, even though it reviewed pretty well, but it should have reviewed way better. I think it got a 70 to Metacritic, which is absurd. I think it deserved almost 10 points higher. Probably get 86, I would say. Basically, I think Detroit Become Human deserved the review scores that Heavy Rain got previous game, one of the previous games, two games prior from the same developer. And I think Heavy Rain deserved the scores that Detroit got. I thought Detroit was just a better game, functionally, acting wise, than Heavy Rain. But for some reason, Detroit just seemed to be very divisive. For whatever reason, it seemed to get a lot of criticism. When I thought it kicked the shit out of like every other adventure game ever made, besides like The Wolf Among Us, just because selfishly I just love the setting of that game. I just love Big B and Bill Williamson's Tales stories. But I mean, mechanically, it's more impressive. But I love The Wolf Among Us. But I think Detroit is mechanically the best adventure game ever made. But it's like these are similar, like interesting, ballsy elements where it's like depending on your choices, at the end, for example, it's like you can have this amazing long journey with her, or you can never find her, or you can find her and then have it end almost before it started, and even that can happen in multiple ways: the slaver or the House of Empty Time. Then you could get rid of her in Little Neelish through the portal to her real home, which would end her journey a little bit early. Or you could convince her to stay with you instead of going to like her real home with her real parents, and then you keep her. And there's just so many options and variables. It's just so wonderfully done, and like it makes you feel guilty or happy depending on what you do. And it's like I made her stay with me, and I felt guilty. Whereas the House of Empty Time, making her stay with me, I did not feel guilty because she did not she literally did. She did not want to go to the House of Empty Time. I think she kind of felt like knew that it wasn't her actual home, but she knew the portal in Little Neelish was her real home, and she wanted to go. So you have to convince her not to, like, which she does come around to it, but she never seems 100% certain. Like, you basically have to say like, and you have to really convince her. And the game tries to guilt trip you and makes you have to convince her multiple times. Like, I thought it would be easier, like, but basically the game tries to tell you, in my opinion, that sending her through the portal in Little Neelish is the optimal outcome for Ren. Like, that is the best outcome for what her story is. Like, because you have to convince her so hard. And all of it is sweet. Of course, I sent her through to get the trophy, and that was like heartbreaking. And she was like crying, but she, wanted to go through. But like, you ask her, like, what do you want to do? And she's like, yeah, I want to go. Like, it's my home, it's my family. But she's like, wait, you're my family also. And she like doesn't know what to do, and it's like pretty sad. And then to convince her, it's like you gotta be like, I'm your family now. Like, your parents didn't even try to look for you, this and that. And then you say that, and she's like, yeah, I guess. And you think that's it. And then it makes you have to go through like another round of like convincing her. Like, you, you have to say like, I'm your family now. She's like, yeah, I guess so. And then you have to like be like multiple more rounds where you have to be like, you have choices of things to say. Like, one of them was like, your parents didn't even come looking for you. She's like, yeah, I guess. And then you have to go through another round of it where you're like, well, Rin, like, obviously you ran away for a reason, so you weren't happy. And she's like, yeah, I guess. And then it's like, what if you go back there and it's not what you wanted? You can't come back. You have to like you go through like 4 rounds of convincing her. It's like, God dang, man, they guilt trip the fuck out of you with it. So it's like they do such a good fucking job. And Rin, like I said, is a microcosm of the entire game, where it's like you have so many different options. There's so much depth there. So much depth and backstory. There's as much depth and backstory and as many options as you're willing to explore. The game is as deep as you want it to be. Whereas if you don't want to read everything, you don't want to like look into it that much and learn about the world, you're not going to get nearly as much out of it. But it's like, if you do dig into everything, it's like you will be blown away by the sheer density of the game. Like, it's not a huge game, but it is super fucking dense. Where it's like everything you do is dense. None of it's hollow. Like, everything is dense. Like, rich with choice, consequence, and outcome, and different decisions, and different dialogues, and reactions to reactions. And certain things you do will lead to certain other things that would have never happened if you didn't do that one thing way before. And like, then once you get to this thing that you would have never been able to get to if you didn't make that choice before, now you have multiple choices here to dictate what might happen in the future, and then you pick this choice and it leads you on a certain path to the future. But then it's like, if you had picked a different choice in the middle of that, it would have led you to a different way. And it's just like, man, there's so many different branches and ways to do things and ways to go about completing quests. And it's very clever in its ability to avoid like just killing things as well. It's very impressive and rich, and the world and the lore is quite rich. And background, the backstories, and how characters feel about things, and setup of the world, and the different outcomes and the different things. Like everything you do basically affects the future of what happens in the game and in the world. It's it's a very impressive and very dynamic and very rich. The only problem with it is where a lot of people will kind of get lost with it and not get super into it is it's a reader. It's a book basically, whereas like half of the things that happen in the game happen in your head. Half of the things that happen in the game are just text on a screen. It's like literally probably more than half the things that happen. Probably like 2/3, 3/4, probably like 3/4 of things that happen in the game are just text, letters on the screen. So it's like you have to imagine a lot of it. A lot of it, even a lot of the reactions and things that happen, is just descriptive text where it puts pictures and movies in your mind, but it doesn't. A lot of it doesn't actually play out on screen, or 99% of it's not voiced. Just a small percentage of it is voiced and animated. Some of it is, but not a lot. So it really is like a visual novel. It's like an interactive novel. It's like, but it's more than that. But it really has that DNA, and it's just hard for a lot of people to like dig that. Or what's hard. I will admit, I love this game. Like I'm almost done with it, and I would give it objectively probably an 8.5. My enjoyment of it would be that of like a 9 out of 10. And I think there is a place where you could say it's a 9 out of 10, but objectively, I would say it's like an 8.5 out of 10 game. It does have flaws. Um, it's a hard game to review. Honestly, I really think the reviews that I got are accurate. I really do. It has an 81 Metacritic, which is a very solid score. It's not a great score, but it's definitely above average, and it's a solid score. I think that's fair. I think it has a completely fair score. Like, I can't argue with it. My personal rating maybe would be an 8.5. It depends on how the game ends. I really, really enjoy it. But objectively, like, I think it's scored accurately. Like 8.1 completely, or 81 aggregate makes sense. Because while it is expertly crafted in so many areas with choice and consequence and the unique setting and atmosphere, characters and choices. Obviously, the combat's not very good. We all know that, but there's barely any combat, so it's whatever. And even though the combat's not very good, it's still not like horrible to play. Like it's fine to play. It's just not. It is not great combat. It's just very basic, mediocre combat. But like, I don't dislike playing it. It's just not anything special. But that's not a big deal. But I think what the biggest problem with the game is that it's a show. It's a tell don't show game. Like it's tell don't show, and you really want a lot more of like show don't tell. Like I realized that they're working on a budget. They didn't have a Baldur's Gate 3 hundreds of millions, $300 million budget, whatever. Baldur's Gate 3, I would assume, probably had at least a $200 million budget. This game probably had 1% of that. Probably more than 1%. Probably like 2%, maybe 3% of that. It probably had like what 5 million, 4 million. It made like 2.5 million on Kickstarter. I'm assuming it got more money than that from like published at Deep Silver, but I don't know. I would assume it was certainly less than 5 million. But if you just go by the Kickstarter money, let's say it was like a $3 million budget. Um, so essentially, like 1%, 2% of something like Baldur's Gate, or like 2% of Baldur's Gate 3. So obviously, they couldn't make all of these elaborate cutscenes, and they couldn't have 100,000 lines of voice dialogue and um, all of these real time things happening dynamically. Um, and also, that's also one of the reasons why I think that they were able to give so much choice and consequence and so much incredible variation is because of the fact that they don't have to show a lot of what's actually happening. They just have to describe it. So they can have so much more choice and consequence, so much more variation, so many more interesting scenarios and things occurring because they don't have to actually like animate all of that in the game. They just have to tell you, which is like the beauty of it and the curse. That's really why it allows the game to have so much variation, but it's also what maybe makes that choice and consequence and that variation a little bit less impactful when it actually does happen. That's what I would say one of the biggest problems with the game, probably um, in terms of mass appeal, and even with me to a certain extent. Whereas, on the other hand, I think it actually has its pluses and its minuses. While I would much rather see all of these things animated, I still think there's a certain advantage in a way to not having these things animated, to having it feel like a book where it's described extremely well to where it paints pictures in your head exquisitely and it allows you to imagine vividly like what's happening, which in a way and in a sense is an advantage because it doesn't box in what's happening to one person's portrayal it or depiction. It allows you to decide for yourself what that looks like, sounds like to you, plays like to you, um, what it seems like in your head. So that is always an advantage that like books and written material have, especially when they're extremely descriptive and well written, is that it allows you to create worlds and scenarios and characters and actions and events in your mind. But on the other hand, it's like it would it. On the other hand, to me, it would have been nice to have mixed in a little bit more of show don't tell. I appreciate the tell don't show aspect, the book aspect of it, but realistically, a lot of that's based on budget. But I still appreciate that, and appreciate the fact that it allows them to play in such a grand um, sandbox. It allows them to play in a much larger sandbox. The fact that everything they do, all the choice they have, all the scenarios that they play, they don't have to animate every single one. Whereas if they did, it would dramatically limit the choice and the consequence and where the story could go if they had to animate everything. And they just wouldn't. They simply wouldn't have as much choice. They wouldn't have as many endings, results, things. Not necessarily game endings, but like endings to scenarios. Because each one of those things they would have to animate and voice and like code out, and therefore automatically you know that they would cut at least half of the options off. If each option they had to fully orchestrate visually and audio visually. Um, so it's a dual-edged sword because it allows you to play in a larger sandbox, but it's less vivid. Um, but I would have liked. So I think it's both a plus and a criticism. I would have liked them to have added a little bit more in terms of like voice dialogue, animated gameplay scenes, not cutscenes, but animated like gameplay scenes when you do something or describe something, and quite frankly, cutscenes. The game does not have any cutscenes. It has 0 cutscenes. To my remembrance and knowledge, I don't think it has any cutscenes. The closest thing it has to cutscenes, I think, is uh, like some. It's what it has during like the Miracast, where it's like it has pictures of like what's happening, and then each scenario there's like a picture, or like during some of the past events that you're seeing, like in the labyrinth, for example, like the one with the Tabat, who are like burning, who are attacking the village and stuff. When you see that, it's showing you like an animated, like live thing that's currently happening. Where it's like some characters are like doing some stuff, but there's not much of that at all. Um, it doesn't actually have cutscenes, and like I actually would have liked some. Didn't have to have a lot. Even if it was 3 major cutscenes, I honestly kind of would have liked that. Like maybe early on, like maybe in the very beginning, to like show the changing god and to show you like falling from the sky, or something like that, and then maybe something in the middle. Oh yeah, then the next one I would say would be like maybe an opening cutscene. Yeah, the next one I would say definitely this would be this. The second cutscene out of the 3 major would be when you find out that the Spectre guy that's in your mind is actually the changing god. Um, or at least, like, maybe you find that out in real gameplay. I actually like the way they do it. That would be fine. So you find that out then, and then after your confrontation with him, then a cutscene where it shows him, like, being pushed down and you defeating him. You do that all in real time, but then right after it triggers like and shows him like being pushed back down, and then the cutscene plays into Malavest being attacked um, by the Sorrow. Like that would have been cool. And then of course like an end game cutscene with like I don't know whatever the final confrontation is going to be after you changing that, like something like that. Like if they just had 3 central cutscenes and then just a little bit more voice dialogue, like just on important things, like a little bit more voice dialogue, like I don't know, maybe it's, it sounds like a lot, but it's really not. Like maybe if they just had like um, 1,000 more lines of voice dialogue, which again sounds like a lot. It's really not. When the game has probably well over 100,000, potential lines of dialogue. Like, if they could have just had like 3 major cutscenes and maybe like 1,000 more, or like I don't know, 500 or even 200 more lines of voice dialogue, just like most, if not all, of the story, major story moments to be voiced, and like the super integral, important, like, companion moments, companion quest moments, and, like, a few of, like, very, very important, like, side quests. Just, like, a smidgen more. So you can just feel the emotion of the characters. Just a little bit more voice acting, because there is so little. To the point where even the main quests are not voice acted. The most you'll get in a main quest even is like the first paragraph is voice acted and then all the rest is not. Like you're lucky if you get more than like 3 lines of dialogue. And even like the most important main quest. Even in like the pivotal companion quests, when like you get to the crescendo, you get to like the final thing, the character will have like 2 lines of dialogue. Like Tabir was like, it was very powerful and awesome when he was like, I killed them, like it was my fault, like I killed them, and that's all he says, I think. And then he has like way more text, but like all he fucking says, it would have been nice to have a little bit more, just a little bit more. Like I don't know, they could have like tossed 300 grand more at the game. I think they could have gotten like 1,000 more lines of important lines of dialogue. I think they could have gotten like 3 to 4, like at least 3 pivotal animated cutscenes, and I think they could have had like 20 very important main quest and side quest scenarios that were like fully animated instead of like it just saying what happened. Because a lot of times too in a quest, like you'll be doing it or do it, and like it'll just say what happened. Like even if you're like, even if it's not an actual crisis, if you're like fighting a character, it will just say like he lunges at you and this happens, and then like, but it won't even show it. Sometimes it does, but a lot of times it doesn't. So like maybe 20 more like impactful scenes where they tell you, don't show you. Have those not be cutscenes, but have them be like in real time animated. Like have the NPCs and stuff like being animated and doing stuff in real time, along with voice acting as well in real time. Um, I don't even think it would cost that much, but if they had like made 300 grand extra, I think they could get 1,000 more lines of voice dialogue, 3 major animated cutscenes, and then 20 more like quests or scenarios, major scenarios that were like fully animated live, like in the game, not in cutscenes, but like live animated in the game, and like most of them with with voice dialogue. Um, and I doubt that would even cost 300 grand, but like if it did, like I think that would have been, I think that would have been money well spent, like very, very well spent. And I honestly think that would have, I think it would have added a lot of oomph to the game. And I think that alone would have potentially like up the aggregate review score maybe like 3 points, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a massive amount. From an 81 Metacritic to an 84, huge difference. That's a huge difference in the way people perceive the game, and with certain outlets, Certain outlets they give it a 7, now give it an 8.5. Certain outlets they give it a 6, might give it an 8. Certain outlets they give it a 7, might give it an 8, which just changes people's perception hugely. I think that would have made a very, very big difference. I really do. Because that is just, while I love this game, that is a criticism of mine, is that it's just almost all tell and no show. Whereas I know it would be super hard to like show everything that they describe. But boy, some of it would be so impactful and just fun. Like when you go to that like in the Ascension, which is the big crystal area, a really cool looking, classic, typical fantasy like crystal area. It's a very typical like 80s fantasy region where it's like all crystals and like crystal bridges and crystal like monoliths that like talk, you know. And there's this one crystal like monolith that it's like called the speaker or something, and it talks to you and like gives you information. It's been around for like 10,000 or 100,000 years or something like that, and it's like supposed to be old and wise and whatever, and it talks to you and answers your questions, and it was a really cool thing. But to me, it would have been so much cooler and more impactful if it was voiced and it had like a grand, like echoey, like a deep, grand, wise, older, echoey, like all-knowing, like wisdom-filled voice. And when it spoke to you and stuff, it did the things like because the descriptions it described it extremely well, like very well. Like they would say like, you know, the crystal dimmed, and then like this said the thing described it this way, and like the dimming and brightening, the crystal would make like crackling sounds and this and that, like was almost describing its like emotions and stuff, like before or after it was saying things, and it was like very, really descriptive and well done. But man, it would have been so cool if all of that was like shown and heard, or like it would dim before it said the thing, and then say the thing, and the crackling, and like the slight gyrations, and light changes in the lights, and if it had this grand like voice of like, I don't know, who seeks the knowledge, like, you know, some shit like that, some classic shit like that. Like I was specifically thinking during that part of the game, like if it had a voice like that and it was voiced, and like all of the like subtle actions that it was performing while it was speaking, if that was all actually animated along with the voice, that would have just been such a vastly um, improved experience, and just so much more grand, like the experience. It was cool and it was described extremely well. I thought that was one of the more well described and descriptive, fun um, dialogues in the game. The way they described the monolith, the crystal talking and stuff. Like I really enjoyed how that was written. I thought that was written really, really good, really fun, and very descriptive and enjoyable. But I don't know, for certain little parts like that, they had like voiced and then shown what the crystal was doing. Man, it would have just been such a grand experience, especially since like most of the stuff in the game isn't voiced and animated. Like if something like that was, it would feel very powerful and like um, impactful. And even though it didn't have like, even though something like that wasn't a super impactful like story moment that had like really really important dramatic consequences and emotionally charged dialogue, it was just a really fun fantasy moment. So if I was like game director, I would have pushed for some stuff like that, more moments like that. I would have asked for like a few hundred grand, a couple hundred grand more, a few hundred grand to just really put some touches on the game that would have made it significantly more immersive and grand feeling. Um, which these are relatively minor criticisms because the game overall I think is fantastic. I think the game is absolutely superb. I really think the game is an underappreciated gem. 100%. But yeah, that would have been some dope shit if it was able to add some key moments and shit like that. They didn't have to do what they did in fucking Wasteland, which is like Microsoft came in and threw money in it. I think they essentially doubled the what the budget that they had originally for it. Microsoft, they came in and threw like 5 million, maybe 4 million or two and a half, something like that. 2.5 to maybe 5 million. I don't know. They threw a few $1 million more at it, and they were able to up the production value big time. They were able to get every. That's why every line of dialogue, line of text, line of dialogue in the game is voiced. That's why the entire game is voiced, and that's why Wasteland 3 has really good production value and like in a lot of ways it's like more polished, more it's not AAA but like more AAA looking, maybe better quality of life. Um, I don't know. Maybe that's why it has some cutscenes. Maybe that's why like the visual effects are really good. That game actually really does. Wasteland 3 does have some really nice visual effects, like really nice particle effects and stuff, and, like the guns and explosions and lasers. That's why Wasteland 3 is like kind of a more impressive package than like a Wasteland 2. Even though I haven't actually played Wasteland 2, I own it, I've installed, I mean to play it, but from what I've like seen, and I love the fact that everything is voiced in the game. Microsoft spent bank to get all that done. Like I love this game as it is, I really do. But man, if somebody could have like came in and like Microsoft did with Wasteland 3 and thrown bank at it, like I'm talking throwing like $4 million at it, $6 million, gotten it to like be a 10. If they gotten it to be a $10+ million budget, right? Really thrown millions at it, like several $1 million at it, to do just that, to get like, and not even important dialogue. Like if they had gotten every piece of dialogue voiced, which I don't even really think is possible, and most of the scenarios animated, and some cutscenes put in, and really to have like rewired the combat to make it improve, more exciting, and maybe to have just a few more forced combat encounters that were like boss fight type encounters that were actually really good and really fun. Um, just to kind of mix up the pacing a little bit. This game could have, in my opinion, this game could have been, with the characters, the setting, the story, the amount of variation and choice, I think this game could have been like a Game of the Year caliber type game. I think it could have been like a 92 Metacritic type game. If that had been done. Some people would have liked it less, but if they completely reworked combat to make it very good turn-based combat, and then had more forced or more combat encounters in the game that were not easy to avoid. Like, if they had put maybe 8 more combat encounters in the game, and maybe like 2 of them completely unavoidable boss fights that were exciting and awesome, and then 6 of them be like technically avoidable, but like very hard to avoid, because the ones that are avoidable in the game now are like so easy to avoid. And if combat was like really enjoyable, that would have been not a bad thing, but I think it would have been a good thing that would have helped with pacing and helped the game be enjoyable. And then if they had voiced all the dialogue, had more animated scenes, had a few cutscenes, and polished it up a little bit, some of the bugs, some of the visuals, I think I think this could have been like considered like a truly, truly great game. Even though I love it as it is, but I think it could have had like the mass appeal. If it had done that, I think it could have had like legit mass appeal and been considered like amazing. It just had some great combat, a little bit more combat, including a couple like awesome boss fights that were like semi unavoidable, and then just more production value, more voice lines, stuff like that. Man, this could have been such a masterpiece. I love it as it is, but like, I think it could have been really successful if that had been the case. I would have loved to have seen this franchise continue, and like to see this setting, Monty Cook's Numenera setting, explored more, and it would have been so cool if we could have explored more of this world and like seen the regions and the countries and the places in the beyond, and here see some of the places they had talked about with the Mad Priest, where the Necronomicon was from, and those 2 guys that caged it, and seen other sects of like the cult of the Changing God, met even more cast-offs, and like seeing more of the freaking world. I would have loved like more games in this. But it's just like not everyone's gonna enjoy with an RPG that's essentially almost a visual novel. I've never even fully played like a visual novel. The closest game that I've beaten to a visual novel was probably Pyre, Pyre. I don't read a ton, and I don't read a lot of books. I don't play visual novels. But this setting and the companions and the story was just too awesome. The game design was too awesome not to want to play. And I love In Exile as a developer. In Exile is one of my favorite developers ever. And like especially my appreciation for In Exile, Brian Fargo, and people that work with In Exile that go back to like Black Isle and the days of those studios, developers, and people that are there that worked on Fallout 2, and the original Wasteland, and the Bard's Tale games. And my respect for those people, Brian Fargo, Sean McComb, Mike McComb, who's not there anymore, and Chris Avalon, who I believe wrote for this game a little bit. Chris Avalon is just a legend. And the people that work in the original Planescape, all that is just very high respect for them. And I didn't even grow up on those games. I'd never played Planescape Torment or Neverwinter or Icewind Dale and all this. That's why I'm trying to catch up on them now. I didn't have a computer like that growing up. But doing the research and now starting to play some of the modern games from these people, trying to go back, kind of reverse engineer. Start to try to play some of these games I'm really appreciating, what these people made and what they've done. I'm enjoying Brian Fargo and Exile's like modern work with Wasteland 3 and even Bard's Tale 4 to an extent, and now Tides of Numenera. And then I bought and installed Wasteland 2, and I know it's Obsidian, but still Obsidian is related to these guys, and the fact that they're making new modern Infinity Engine type games with Pillars. So I bought Pillars of Eternity 2. I have Icewind Dale and Planescape Torment. I've fallen in love with these CRPGs, so I really want to talk to them. And I didn't want to just go and play the best of them or whatever. I'm playing the ones that interest me. I could have gotten Pillars of Eternity instead. The first one, Divinity 1, Divinity 2. I do want to play Divinity 2, but Tides interest me more because of the setting. Plus, I live in Exile. So Tides and Numenera and Planescape interest me more than the original Baldur's Gate and Pillars of Eternity. I could have played Pillars of Eternity, then went back and played the original Baldur's Gate. Instead, I'm starting with Tides of Numenera and then going back to Planescape Torment, and then I'll try Pillars 2. But this is kind of where my tastes lie. I like the little bit different style. I gotta get ready to go. I don't know if anybody's watching, but I'll be back around 3 hours. And I'm gonna try to finish the game when I come back. Better now. Hope they don't come soon. I could have as little as 10 minutes and as much as a half hour to get ready. Oh boy. But when I come back, so it'll probably be 3 hours. 10 a.m. Eastern Time. I want to just game until I pass out. I'd like to finish this game when I come back. So I'll be back in a few hours, God willing.